The grand dining room of the estate was bathed in a warm golden glow from the crystal chandelier overhead. The long table, set with fine china and silverware, could seat 20, but only 3 chairs were occupied. David sat at one end, his posture relaxed but his expression tense with frustration. Across from him, his father sipped his wine, calm and composed, while his mother watched him carefully, her hands folded neatly in front of her. "This isn't happening," David said, breaking the silence. He pushed his plate aside, his untouched steak now cold. "You can't be serious." His father set down his glass, his tone measured. "This isn't a request, David. It's already been decided." David ran a hand through his dark hair, leaning back in his chair. "A decision made without me? How generous." His mother's voice was sharp. "Enough with the sarcasm. This isn't just about you. It's about the family and everything we've built." David's eyes narrowed. "And the way to protect it is by marrying me off like it's the 18th century? To a woman I've never even met." "You'll meet her soon enough," his father replied. "Anna is a respectable young woman from a good family. This arrangement benefits everyone." David scoffed. "A good family, huh? Then why does she hide behind a veil? What's she covering up? A scar? A secret identity?" "Don't be cruel," his mother snapped. "Anna is private, and she has her reasons. She doesn't owe you an explanation." "No, but apparently, I owe her a lifetime," David shot back. "Why me? Why not let her marry someone who actually wants this?" His father's voice was firm. "Because you're the heir to this family, and the Whitmans are crucial to our business. This marriage is a partnership as much as it is a union." David let out a dry laugh. "So it's a transaction. Great. Love clearly has no place here." "Don't be dramatic," his mother said, her tone softening slightly. "We're not asking you to love her. Just respect her and fulfill your duty." David's hands clenched into fists. "My duty? To marry a stranger? To give up any chance of choosing my own future?" "You'll have everything you could ever need," his father said calmly. "And so will she." David stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. "I don't need this. I don't need her." His mother stood as well. "You'll meet her tomorrow at dinner. And I expect you to act like the man we raised you to be." David didn't respond. Instead, he turned and strode out of the dining room, their expectations weighing on him like a suffocating blanket. Upstairs in his room, he poured himself a glass of whiskey and stared out at the twinkling city lights. The anger burning inside him was sharp, relentless. An arranged marriage to a woman who wouldn't even show her face, it felt like a cruel joke, something out of another era. He downed the whiskey in one gulp. Tomorrow, he would finally meet Anna. And one thing was certain, he wasn't going to make this easy for anyone. The following evening, the Whitman estate was alive with quiet activity as the staff prepared for dinner. When David entered his parents' formal sitting room, his expression was carefully neutral, though irritation simmered beneath the surface. His father greeted him with a nod, while his mother offered a tight-lipped smile. "She'll be here shortly," she said, smoothing her dress. "Wonderful," David muttered, adjusting the cuffs of his shirt. Moments later, the sound of heels clicking against the polished floor caught their attention. David looked up as a woman entered, escorted by an older man he recognized as one of the Whitman patriarchs. She moved with quiet grace, her posture straight and composed. A long veil covered her face, cascading over her shoulders, leaving only her striking gray eyes visible, sharp, bright, and piercing, almost as if they could see through him. His mother stepped forward with a warm smile. "David, this is Anna." Anna inclined her head slightly, her voice calm and measured. "It's a pleasure to meet you, David." David hesitated, his gaze fixed on the veil. He extended his hand automatically, his mind racing. "Likewise," he said, though his tone lacked conviction. As dinner progressed, the conversation was stiff, formal. David struggled to focus, his attention constantly drifting to Anna. She was still, measured in her responses, and never once did she reach for her veil. Finally, his patience wore thin. He set down his fork. "You don't have to keep that on, you know. No one here is going to judge you." His mother shot him a warning glance, but Anna remained unbothered. Her eyes met his, unwavering. "I appreciate your concern," she said softly, "but I prefer to keep it on." David raised an eyebrow. "Why? Are you hiding something?" His mother hissed his name in warning, but Anna didn't flinch. "I'm not hiding anything that matters." "That's not for you to decide," David said. "I deserve to know who I'm marrying." Anna's voice remained steady. "You will, in time. But for now, all you need to know is that I understand my role in this union. I hope you'll understand yours." Her words struck a nerve, leaving David momentarily speechless. The rest of the evening passed in awkward formality, with their parents trying to smooth over the tension. When it finally ended, David walked Anna and her father to the door. As Anna turned to leave, he couldn't help himself. "Why do you act like this doesn't matter?" he asked, his voice low. Anna paused, her hand on the doorframe. She turned her head slightly, meeting his gaze. "It matters. Just not in the way you think." And with that, she stepped out into the night, leaving David standing there, his frustration mingling with an unexpected flicker of curiosity. The wedding day arrived with all the grandeur expected of a union between two powerful families. The estate was decorated with fresh flowers and sparkling chandeliers, and guests dressed in designer suits and gowns exchanged pleasantries and speculations. David stood at the altar, rigid, his expression betraying his frustration. The ceremony felt hollow, a performance he had no interest in playing. When Anna entered, draped in an elaborate white gown with her veil still in place, a hush fell over the room. Even as she walked gracefully down the aisle, she remained a mystery. The whispers began. "She still won't take it off. Maybe there's a reason." David's jaw tightened. When the officiant finally pronounced them husband and wife, he hesitated. Anna inclined her head slightly but made no move to lift her veil. With a resigned sigh, he placed a brief kiss on the fabric covering her cheek. The applause was polite, but the tension in the air was unmistakable. As the night wore on, David's frustration grew. When they were finally alone in their suite, he turned to Anna, his patience snapping. "Are you going to keep that thing on forever?" Anna calmly removed her gloves. "Until I'm ready." David let out a bitter laugh. "Ready for what? To reveal whatever you're hiding? Or are you just enjoying this game?" She met his gaze. "This isn't a game, David." His anger wavered. "Then what is it?" "You'll find out when the time is right." David stared at her, frustration twisting inside him. Finally, he poured himself another drink. "Fine. Keep your secrets. But don't expect me to wait forever." Anna didn't respond. She simply removed her earrings, her silence heavier than words. And as the night stretched on, David found himself wondering, maybe for the first time, what truly lay beneath the veil. David had been keeping his distance from Anna, avoiding her whenever possible. He spent long hours in his office or took aimless drives just to escape the stifling atmosphere of the mansion. Yet, despite his frustration, he couldn't help but notice little things about her. The way she moved with effortless grace, the quiet authority she carried in her demeanor. One morning, as he worked in the sunlit study, poring over a problematic merger proposal, he felt his patience wearing thin. The numbers weren't adding up, and the entire deal was on the verge of falling apart. "Need some help?" Startled, David looked up to see Anna standing in the doorway. She wore a simple yet elegant dress, the ever-present veil still concealing her face. "I didn't realize you were there," he said, his tone clipped. "This isn't exactly your area of expertise." Anna tilted her head slightly. "You might be surprised." Before he could dismiss her, she stepped closer and picked up one of the documents. Her gloved fingers skimmed the text, and after a moment, she spoke. "The issue isn't the numbers," she said. "It's the wording in this clause. It's too vague, which is making the other party hesitate." David frowned, leaning in to follow where she pointed. "You think that's the problem?" "I don't think," she said with quiet confidence. "I know. Clarify the terms, and they'll sign." He stared at her, surprised. "How do you even know that?" Anna set the paper down with ease. "Just because I'm not in your world doesn't mean I don't understand how it works." With that, she turned and walked out, leaving David to sit there, her words echoing in his mind. Few days later, he came across Anna in an entirely different setting. He was passing by the kitchen on his way to the garage when the sound of laughter caught his attention. Curious, he paused at the doorway. Inside, Anna stood near the counter, chatting with the kitchen staff. Her voice was warm, engaging. Despite the veil, the people around her responded with genuine fondness. "You've outdone yourself with the pastries today, Mrs. Hale," Anna said sincerely. "They look almost too good to eat." The head cook, Mrs. Hale, beamed. "Oh, you flatter me, Mrs. Whitman. But it's true, isn't it? I've been perfecting that recipe for weeks." Anna laughed softly. "Well, if you ever need a taste tester, you know where to find me." David lingered for a moment, watching the effortless way she connected with people. It was a side of her he hadn't expected. As he turned to leave, he realized that the distant, enigmatic woman he had imagined was far more complex than he had assumed. Over the following weeks, David found himself paying more attention to Anna. He noticed the way she carried herself, the way she subtly contributed to the household, and the sharp intelligence she revealed in their occasional conversations. One evening, during dinner, she asked about his work with an unexpected level of insight. "How's the merger coming along?" she asked, her voice calm but curious. David hesitated before sighing. "Complicated. The other party is still hesitant, even after the changes we made." Anna nodded thoughtfully. "Maybe they need more reassurance. Have you considered hosting a meeting here? Sometimes putting a face to the people behind the business makes all the difference." He blinked, startled by the suggestion. "You think that would work?" "It's worth a try." To his own surprise, David took her advice, and the meeting proved to be a success. The deal closed soon after, leaving him both relieved and intrigued. As time passed, he continued to reevaluate his perception of Anna. She wasn't the distant figure he had assumed. She was intelligent, kind, and thoughtful. Yet, the veil remained a symbol of the distance between them. One evening, unable to ignore his thoughts any longer, he sought her out in the library. She was sitting by the window, a book in her hands, illuminated by the glow of a nearby lamp. "Anna," he said, his voice sharper than intended. She looked up, her gray eyes watchful. "Yes. We need to talk." She closed her book and set it aside. "About what?" Frustration bubbled to the surface. "Why do you keep hiding behind that veil? Do you think I can't handle seeing you? That I'm too shallow to accept whatever it is you're afraid to show?" Her gaze didn't waver, but he caught a flicker of emotion. "This isn't about you, David." "Then what is it about?" "Because from where I'm standing, it feels like some kind of test, like you're waiting to see how long I'll tolerate being married to a mystery." Anna stood, her movements deliberate. She turned away, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. "It's not a test." "Then why?" he pressed. "Why won't you let me see you? Do you think I can't handle the truth, or is it that you don't trust me?" Her shoulders tensed. For a moment, he thought she might walk away. Instead, she turned, her eyes filled with a quiet intensity. "Do you really want to know why?" "Yes." "Because I wanted you to see me for who I am," she said, her voice unwavering. "Not for what I look like, not for what others say about me, but for the person I truly am. I hoped that you might be willing to look beyond the surface." Her words struck him deeply. He had spent so much time resenting the veil that he had failed to see the woman behind it. "I'm sorry," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Anna's expression softened. "I'm not asking for an apology, David. I'm asking for patience and understanding." David nodded. "I've been a fool. I judged you without trying to understand." A hint of a smile touched her lips. "We all have our blind spots. The question is whether we're willing to see past them." For the first time, David felt hope. Maybe they could move forward together, not as two strangers, but as something more. The night of the grand gala arrived, a celebration of the merger's success. The ballroom buzzed with laughter and conversation, yet David's attention was elsewhere. He found himself glancing at the grand staircase, waiting. Then, the room fell silent. Anna stood at the top of the stairs. Her emerald gown shimmered in the light, but that wasn't what had captured the crowd's attention. For the first time, her face was uncovered. She descended with effortless grace, and David barely heard the hushed murmurs around him. "She's stunning. Why would she ever hide her face?" Anna reached the bottom of the staircase, her gaze finding David's. He stared, his heart pounding. "Why now?" he asked softly. Anna's expression was calm yet resolute. "Because it was time." And in that moment, David realized, he had never truly seen her until now. The room fell silent as Anna took a deep breath, her gaze sweeping across the gathered crowd. "Some people assumed I wore the veil to hide something, a scar, a flaw, or a secret I was ashamed of. But the truth is much simpler." She paused, letting the moment settle. "I wore it because I wanted to be seen for who I truly am, not for my appearance, but for my thoughts, my values, and my actions. Too often, we judge people by what we see on the surface, and I didn't want that to define me or my marriage." The audience hung on her every word, captivated by her honesty. Anna turned to David, her voice softer now. "I kept the veil because I needed to know if you could see beyond it, if you could truly see me." David felt a lump in his throat. Her words cut through every doubt and frustration he had ever felt. He stepped closer, his voice filled with emotion. "I see you, Anna. I think I always have. I just didn't realize it until now." The rest of the room seemed to fade away as David focused solely on her. "I was so fixated on what I couldn't see that I forgot to appreciate what was right in front of me. Your kindness, your intelligence, your strength. That's what I fell in love with." Tears shimmered in Anna's eyes, but her smile remained steady. "And I fell in love with a man who was willing to grow, to learn, and to see beyond his own assumptions." David reached for her hands, his grip firm and warm. "Anna, I don't care what anyone else thinks. I care about you. And I'm grateful every single day that you're my wife." The room erupted in applause. Cheers rang out as guests celebrated the heartfelt moment. As the night continued, Anna moved through the crowd with newfound confidence, engaging effortlessly with guests. David stayed close, introducing her to those who had yet to meet her, watching with pride as she captivated everyone in the room. By the end of the evening, it was clear to all in attendance that Anna wasn't just a beautiful woman revealing her face. She was a force to be reckoned with, a woman worthy of admiration and respect. Later, as the last guests departed and the grand ballroom emptied, David and Anna found themselves alone on the balcony. The cool night air brushed against their skin as they gazed at the twinkling stars above. David turned to her, his voice filled with sincerity. "I'm sorry it took me so long to understand. You deserved better from me." Anna smiled, leaning into his side. "We all grow at our own pace, David. What matters is that we're here now." He wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. "I don't care what the future holds, as long as we face it together." Anna tilted her head, her gray eyes sparkling. "Together," she agreed as they stood there, looking out at the horizon. David realized that every misunderstanding, every challenge, and every revelation had led them to this moment. For the first time, he was certain, their future was as bright and boundless as the stars above. In the weeks after the gala, David and Anna settled into a new rhythm. Their relationship transformed in ways neither had expected. The veil was gone, but that was only a small part of the shift between them. David no longer saw Anna as a mystery to solve or an obligation to fulfill. He saw her as his true partner, someone who challenged him, supported him, and made him a better man. In return, Anna began to fully open up, revealing not just her sharp mind, but also her warmth, her humor, and the vulnerability she had once hidden. Their mornings became a cherished routine, sharing coffee in the sunlit breakfast nook, discussing everything from daily plans to long-term dreams. David found himself looking forward to these quiet moments, not just for Anna's insights but for the deep connection they fostered. At work, Anna's presence became increasingly influential. David valued her perspective, involving her in key decisions, and soon, she earned the respect of his entire team. She wasn't just a bystander, she contributed meaningful solutions, balancing innovation with practicality. One afternoon, during a crucial business meeting, David stood before the boardroom. "Before we begin," he said, "I want to formally introduce someone who has been an incredible asset, not just in my life, but to this company. My wife, Anna." Polite applause filled the room as Anna stood, poised yet humble. "She has a gift for seeing things others might overlook," David continued, his voice full of pride. "Her insights have already made a significant impact, and I'm excited for all of you to work with her." Anna smiled graciously. "Thank you, David. I'm honored to contribute, and I look forward to collaborating with all of you." As the meeting progressed, it became evident that Anna was no mere figurehead. She engaged with clarity and confidence, sparking lively discussions and earning nods of approval from even the most skeptical board members. Outside of work, David and Anna began exploring their shared passions, visiting art galleries, attending charity events, and traveling to places that inspired them. With each new experience, they discovered a compatibility that went beyond their initial arrangement. One evening, while walking hand in hand through a bustling street market abroad, David turned to Anna with a soft smile. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" Anna chuckled. "Every day. Especially when I remember how much you hated me wearing the veil." David laughed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Guilty. But I'm grateful for it now. It taught me to see you, not just your face, but everything that makes you, you." Anna squeezed his hand. "And I'm grateful you were willing to learn." Months turned into years, and their bond only deepened. Together, they built a life that blended their strengths and values, creating not just a successful business partnership but a loving, supportive marriage. David often marveled at how much Anna had taught him, about the world, about people, and about himself. She had shown him the power of patience, humility, and looking beyond first impressions. In turn, Anna admired David's ability to grow, to admit his faults, and to commit wholeheartedly to their shared future. The final scene unfolded in the Whitman Enterprises boardroom, where David and Anna sat side by side. As David prepared to open an important meeting, he glanced at his wife with a knowing smile. "Before we begin, I just want to acknowledge Anna," he said. "Her vision has been instrumental in shaping this project, and I couldn't ask for a better partner, in business and in life." Anna met his gaze, her smile warm yet confident. "Thank you, David. And I couldn't ask for a better teammate." As they walked out of the building later that evening, the city skyline glowing in the distance, David turned to Anna. "I never imagined we'd end up here." Anna smirked playfully. "Neither did I. But I think we did pretty well, don't you?" David laughed, pulling her close. "Better than I ever hoped."